Charlie 14, Marine Corps, infantry. Not only did they train me to be a trigger puller, it also taught me a lot of things about life.
Success to me came every day that I was successful in the Army, even the bad days where I learned something. And that took me, I'm pleased to say and honored to say, up to the top.
My regular MOS was Mortimer. Shortly after getting in country, the gunny told me, told me I was one actual radio operator. I had no training, it was on the job training.
I arrived in Saigon on Christmas Day of 1962, and I'd been a captain for about 2.5 months at that point. And I was going to be an advisor to the 1st ARVN Division.
It was actually a 432nd Tactical Reconnaissance Wing, and there were 2 fighter squadrons attached to the wing. One was the 13th Tech Fighter Squadron, the other was the Triple Nickel. But I think about my 3rd mission or so, I was in combat.
First 2 weeks I was wounded. You know, I had a chunk of my skin on my arm was just torn apart, and all I could see was corpuscles and blood and flesh. Scared me to death.
We were right off to do the things that we had been trained to do at Davis Mountain. Radar, navigation, and bombing. VFR bombing.
We just tromped through that forest for the better part of 6 or 7 months, setting up other little bases and outposts. And on one of these places, a place called Bilong, not far from Ashau, the closest I ever got to being killed.
The worst day I ever had on the tour was when I realized that our unit was being overran by the NBA.
We were flying, I call it a gaggle. We had about 50 aircraft, not just from our base, but from other bases, F-105s, and we were going north to destroy some SAM sites that were coming further and further south. And of course, the further south they came, the closer they got to our tankers.
The VC had spotted where we were pretty accurately on the top of this hill and started to fire mortars at us. The battalion commander wanted to start firing back, and I said, well, we don't know where they are. It might not be a wise thing to do at this point. And he said, no, we have to do it. And so we started to shoot back, further identifying our position with greater precision for the Viet Cong.
Missile SAM came up. You'd have to, let me put it this way generally, maneuver in such a fashion that the missile going Mach 4 could not keep up with your turn, all right? This time, we didn't start our maneuver early enough. And this missile came so close, I was going through the maneuver and I could see the fins on the missile trying to deflect, to turn it. And I remember sitting there saying, man, don't let it blow up, don't let it blow up, because that's why they hit you by frags, not to hit you physically, but it's fragmentation. And it seemed like time was standing still. I could even see grains of sand floating in the cockpit, quite frankly. The loose papers were floating, the pins, because of the maneuver I was going through. And I said, oh, don't let it blow up, don't let it blow. And it didn't, it went up. I thought it was only 2 feet above me, but it was probably more like 1,000 feet above. And it's just huge explosion.
There was this huge flash in front of my eyes, an explosion. I immediately dropped to the ground and ran back to the bunker. About 8 or 9 of our soldiers had been wounded. Nobody was killed.
Most of our company was a lot of casualties, a lot of injuries. And our Lieutenant Pete Perello, he was injured. I took over commanding because he was hurt. And, you know, I tried to get everybody back in line, stop panicking, stop saying we're gonna die or what we gonna do now. So I ran from hold to hold, trying to get people to concentrate on what was happening. By being a radio operator, my expectancy of life was 10 seconds in a firefight. And everywhere I went, it was like a trail of bullets.
Shells would be up at 35,000 feet, some at 20,000 feet, others down about 15,000 feet. So we know we had different guns shooting. So we rolled in and literally destroyed the, well, it was saturated with bombs, to put it that way. They didn't get off another missile.
The next morning when I went out to see where we were, I looked up, and there was a tree right in front of where I was standing. And the tree was shattered about 12, 15 feet up. That's where the round hit. The round hit the tree on its way to my head and went around me in a cone. The explosion went around me in a cone. And if that tree hadn't have been there, that would have been the end of my military career in my life.
They called you lucky after that?
They didn't have to. I called me lucky after that.
So when it was time to call in the chopper, I got on my radio and said, you know, SOS, SOS, or Mayday, Mayday. And the planes in the area, the choppers in the area, and said, we can't land in that LZ, it's too hot. And I lost it. I was screaming, sir, forgive me, but this and that and this and that. We're gonna die down here. You know, there was 2 choppers from the Army, and they heard me. And they said, soldier, give me your 20. They came, you know, I had to be up on that hill directing them in, where to land, where to go out, and I'm throwing a smoke bomb, and they started shooting at me. And I remember getting hit and knocked to the ground. But I got back up because my mission wasn't done yet until that chopper got down and got out of there.